All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out to our final GSA forum meeting for the quarter. I know with inclement weather incoming and other extenuating circumstances, many of you are um, tuning in over Zoom. Nevertheless, I am grateful for your attendance and your participation. So now that we have quorum, we will go ahead and move on to the second part of our agenda, which is approval of the agenda. If there are no objections or last minute modifications to be made, I would like a motion for approving the agenda to be made.
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and seconded. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Great. Please lower your hands now. All those against approving the agenda, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay. And then please lower your hands. And then those that wish to abstain from voting on this motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay. All right, with that, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. We will now move on to, the approval of the minutes. Unfortunately, there are no minutes from the previous meeting. I will explain that in my report shortly. So we will go ahead and move on to public comment from GSA general membership if there is any. So for those that are present and wish to speak, there is a mic over there in the corner. Or if you're on Zoom, you can also raise your hand and we will allow you to have the floor temporarily. Okay. If we have no public comment, then we will go ahead and move on to the next section of the agenda. We will have special presentations. We will first begin with the LA Department of Transportation talking about some bike lane construction projects that have been ongoing. And we have a guest speaker, Jack Moreau. So for now, the floor is yours, Jack.
Thanks so much, and thank you for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you confirm you're seeing the screen?
On Zoom, let me see. Then let me stop sharing mine. Oh, I see. Okay.
Jack, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. My name is Jack Moreau. I'm a supervising planner with LA's Department of Transportation. I actually have two presentations for you tonight on two separate projects in the Westwood area. I'm going to begin with the Westwood Boulevard project. The presentation's around 10 minutes, and then I'm happy to take questions afterwards. But I'll do the Westwood one, then we'll take questions, and then I'll do another presentation on Ohio Avenue, and we'll take questions for that after that presentation. So we'll talk a bit about just the overview of the project and our goals, some existing conditions and constraints on Westwood that we're considering, the next steps, particularly about the community engagement phase we're currently in, and then move into a discussion. So these goals are consistent with many of the goals that LADOT tries to achieve on our projects throughout the city. First and foremost, when we look at improvements to the public right-of-way, our top priority is to address traffic safety concerns. So looking at areas where there's a high rate of severe injuries or fatalities involving people on the roadways. Secondly, try to improve access to public transit stations, so that first and last mile connection getting you from wherever you're starting to the station as well as from the station to your final destination. With the incoming station at Wilshire and Westwood for the D-line extension, that's of particular importance on Westwood Boulevard. And finally, we hope to achieve just better connectivity in the community overall. That Westwood, being as large as it is, can be a barrier for people who are crossing or trying to travel through it by means other than a private vehicle. And so we have the opportunity to make it a bit easier to move around the neighborhood. A bit on the background. So we have three key guiding documents that serve as the basis for the planning of any project within the city of LA. First, we start with Mobility Plan 2035, which is the circulation element of the city's general plan. That document, shares a wide-ranging view of policy goals for the city as it relates to transportation, particularly how we're going to build out and adjust transportation to meet growing population, commercial, and economic changes over time. Secondly, we have the West Side Cities Council of Government Mobility Study. That drilled in a bit further to prioritize various corridors throughout the West Side that would be of particular importance to focus transportation investments. I'll talk a bit more about budget in a moment, but through that document and the prioritization of Westwood, we're able to secure funding specifically for the Westwood project. And finally, one of our guiding documents is Metro's first last mile plan, which calls out even more specifically what types of improvements ought to belong on the streets around new stations, particularly for the Purple Line extension. So the project itself, Westwood, we're looking at Westwood Boulevard between LeConte to the north and Exposition Boulevard in the south. It's about 2.3 miles in total length. We have been allocated $9.6 million in funding through the West Side COG and Measure M to design and construct the project. This has also been stated as a high priority for Council Office, Council District 5, Katie Yaroslavsky, to make transportation and multimodal improvements on Westwood Boulevard. We are planning and expecting to build improvements that are wide-ranging, that are really meeting the needs for people who are riding the bus, interested in bicycling, as well as walking in the neighborhood. We'll get a bit more into the overlapping mobility plan designations in a few slides, but there are some specific considerations directly related to the mobility plan on Westwood. Then lastly, you also see Ohio Avenue shown on this map. I'll talk about that in the next presentation, but that directly connects to the Westwood Boulevard project. So I mentioned that street and road safety is one of our top priorities at LADOT. Westwood Boulevard is on what we call the high injury network. And so that is the 6% of city streets where 70% of all pedestrian and cyclist fatal and severe collisions occur. So logic, one of the reasons why we prioritize those streets is that it's relatively few streets where an overwhelming majority of these injuries or fatalities occur. So by focusing on those streets, we're able to have a more surgical and targeted approach that can have a really large benefit to the city overall. At a high level, in this 10-year period that's shown on the screen now, there were 354 collisions, about 100 of them involving pedestrians and cyclists, representing about 30% overall. Excuse me. And pedestrians are even more overrepresented in those fatal and severe collisions, representing almost 90% of all KSIs. And when you look at the street, that might not come as a surprise. We have wide, unprotected crossings for pedestrians, very little dedicated space for bicyclists, no protected bike lanes. So we know that those types of conditions often lead to the type of incidences that can, involve a severe injury or fatality. There's also very high bus ridership on this street and high traffic. So you have, buses that are stuck in traffic, impeding the flow of that movement. And we know we have insufficient, confusing loading and unloading for the dense business uses. And even to the point where businesses are putting out their own signage to warn, delivery drivers or people who are picking up in the red curb that parking enforcement is occurring. And And that just represents that there's clearly a high demand and need for more loading and curbside uses. You may be familiar with Measure HLA. So Measure HLA is a recent voter-backed initiative that was approved in March 2024 through citywide ballots. And what it does is it requires the city to install transportation improvements that are in alignment with the mobility plan, which makes a lot of sense. And a bit of the history on that is that the city had, adopted the mobility plan in 2015, and it continued resurfacing streets. So, taking out the asphalt and putting in a fresh layer of asphalt on the street. And that's really the prime opportunity to make a change to the traffic striping. But City of LA had just been returning and restoring the same lane configuration that was there before. Now that Measure HLA has been passed and codified into law, there's a new city ordinance that was finalized over the summer. States that when the city makes certain qualifying improvements, such as resurfacing the street, it must install those transportation improvements. So what that looks like is shown in this diagram. One piece of Mobility Plan 2035 are these different mobility plan networks. So essentially mapped out the whole city and said, on different streets, what type of transportation should be prioritized and supported. So it says on this street, you should have a bicycle facility. On this other street, you should have a bus lane. On another street, you should focus on the pedestrian improvements. There's different tiers as well that go along with that. So you can see this is Wilshire Boulevard. The north is on the left and at LeConte, and the southern extent is on the right at Exposition Boulevard. So between Ohio Avenue and Santa Monica Boulevard, that's on what's called the Bicycle Enhanced Network. The Bicycle Enhanced Network requires protected bike lanes for that area. Between Santa Monica Boulevard and Exposition Boulevard, a minimum of Class 2 standard bike lanes is required. Those are the two bicycle networks. What you also see is that we have overlapping networks. So some streets call for mobility improvements of multiple modes of transportation. So for the transit network between LeConte and Wilshire, we're required to install full-time bus lanes. South of Wilshire, there's no requirement for like a linear striping improvement, so like a bus lane itself, but instead it calls for a service enhancement or bus stop enhancements. And lastly, the entirety of Westwood Boulevard is on the pedestrian enhanced district, which requires the city to address severe barriers. So it's broken sidewalks, missing curb ramps. What's important to note here is that these are the minimum requirements, but that we are able to go above and beyond anything that's dictated here. And so something that's been a popular request that we've heard over the years is an extension of the protected bike lanes all the way up to LeConte, which certainly makes sense because, we want to make sure we provide a continuous and seamless experience that, the mobility plan is a guiding document, but didn't spell out and consider every single context of every single street. So we have some leeway to say, it makes sense to extend certain types of facilities in either direction. And the same goes for the bus lanes. At a minimum, we're required to install them between LeConte and Wilshire, but we're able to continue that further south, if there's public interest for it, and then, of course, based on the other constraints in the roadway width. But this can give you a sense of, at a minimum, what you could see on Westwood Boulevard in the future and what the city would be beholden to install when resurfacing the street. As far as our timeline, we're in the early phases of this project. So up to this point, we've been considering what is feasible on the street, what fits within the curb to curb width, and kind of building up our team so that we have the engineering and outreach support to then go out to the community. Over the past month or so, our team's been at many different events, hosting stakeholder meetings, pushing things online, having meetings such as this, meeting with the neighborhood councils, where we're really collecting feedback from the community about what you want to see on the street. We'll then move and take that information into final design, where we'll prepare kind of responses and solutions to the issues that are identified during this initial outreach phase. After that point, we'll come back to the community and share out and say, hey, this is what we heard, and this is what we recommend, and get any final feedback or input on those ideas. We'll finalize the designs and then move into construction. Our plan is to build this project ahead of the Olympics in alignment with the Metro D line extension. But you can see it's a bit of a tight window for us to achieve that goal. But so far, we're on track to install this project ahead of the Olympics. And then as part of every project, we include an evaluation phase after the implementation. So you may see that after the project is completed, we come back out and start talking.
Explain it.
Sorry. We'll come back and kind of talk to people and make any adjustments as needed.
Okay.
So our current phase right now is community engagement. So we'll talk a bit more about what that looks like. I kind of already explained the process that we're following, where we're talking to people now. We'll analyze the responses, draft recommendations, and then come back with the second round of community engagement to talk about a final plan for those improvements. In addition to stakeholder briefings, we have a variety of workshops. We have a survey that's available now, which I'll share the link to. Please engage with us on social media and share out any of our contents. We want to be as wide-reaching as possible to collect feedback. Mailers have been sent out to the addresses around the street. Pop-ups are being hosted at different events, such as farmers markets or the holiday tree lighting that was this weekend but got postponed by a couple weeks. We're canvassing to businesses along the corridor and partnering with CBOs to try and reach some of the harder to reach communities in the area. We'll send all this out afterwards, but there's a QR code here. You can visit our website where you can also access this survey. The deadline for submission is December 31st. This is the best way we have to really collect feedback on a large scale. So please complete this if you haven't done so already and share it with whomever you can. We're really asking three main questions. Where are you going? What are kind of your destinations you're trying to reach? How are you getting there? So your mode of transportation, and what types of safety barriers are you facing along the way? We're also speaking specifically to business owners about how their customers are arriving to their business, how their employees are getting there, and then about their deliveries and loading and some of their other curbside operations. The types of safety issues that we're looking to identify are on the screen now. There's just a partial list, but where it's difficult to cross the street, where you're seeing speeding vehicles or reckless or aggressive driving, where you're finding that drivers are failing to yield, if there's no dedicated space for you to ride your bicycle or scooter where you would like there to be, and again, any issues with loading or parked vehicles. I'm not going to list out all these events. These are also available on our website. They're somewhat subject to change, so the website has the most accurate and up-to-date information. We're having to kind of reschedule some things about around this big rainstorm that's happening this weekend. But as you can see, we're at a lot of events this past few weeks and into the end of the year. I also mentioned we've been at neighborhood councils. The last one is tonight for this current phase, the West Side Neighborhood Council. It's actually occurring, just at 7 o'clock tonight. But there will be more neighborhood council presentations in the future, which you're definitely encouraged to attend and participate in those as well. That's what I have for Westwood right now, and I'm happy to take any questions.
My apologies. If we have no questions, we can go ahead and move on to the next presentation.
Okay, that sounds good. Give me 1 second to restart the share here on the other one. Okay, you should now be seeing the presentation on Ohio Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. The agenda for this presentation is going to be pretty similar to the last one, but Ohio is in a different phase of its project. This is in the second round of community engagement, so we're sharing more details about what the project will look like. The goals are the same, though, that we're addressing, traffic safety issues, improving that first last mile connection to public transit, enhancing the connectivity within the community itself. The guiding documents are also the same. All of our streets are, especially on the west side, are kind of called out in these different plans. It's also a priority as part of the West Side City's Council of Governments Mobility Study. That same process also provided funding for Ohio Avenue, and then it's called out in Metro's first last mile plan as well. So on Ohio Avenue, the project extends, the primary improvement is Ohio Avenue between Westgate and Westwood, where we're proposing a two-way protected cycle track. And then as it wiggles around to the border of the city of Santa Monica, it turns onto relatively low volume neighborhood streets. And so on those streets, we're proposing traffic calming, and more low-touch improvements to further improve the accessibility for bicycles and calm the traffic. So at this point, we're in our final design and outreach phase 2. The initial scope development and outreach phase 1 occurred really between 2022 and 2024. And so we're rapidly approaching construction, and we plan for next summer to us to actually begin installing the improvements. The outreach for Ohio was similarly robust as we're currently, implementing on Westwood. I won't read everything on this list, but you can see that it was quite exhaustive with hangers and flyers, social media, different partnerships and events that we, did everything we could to reach a wide audience and gather feedback on what they wanted to see on Ohio Avenue. And we heard a lot of feedback about the interest for bicycle improvements. There was an interactive mapping tool where you could identify a specific location and then call out an issue or something you'd like to see. That's that 142 comments you see there. And then it was interactive, so other people were able to go in, upvote people's comments to kind of demonstrate their support for them. We also received letters of support from multiple different groups through the area. And our kind of key findings from that were the pedestrian crossings were a challenge, traffic congestion is very high on Ohio Avenue, and that the bicycle facility is inconsistent. There's one small stretch where you have a class 2 bike lane. And the preference we heard was for protected bike lanes on this street. Ohio Avenue has a similar level of funding, $10.4 million. It is the 7th highest bicycling corridor by volume citywide. There's a lot of people who are using it. And there's also a pretty significant prevalence of collisions and crashes resulting in death or severe injuries on the street. What is a unique opportunity for Ohio Avenue is that it crosses underneath the 405 freeway at a point where there's no freeway off-ramps. So if you're moving east-west in this area, you really only have 3 options. You have Santa Monica Boulevard, Ohio Avenue, and Wilshire Boulevard. Santa Monica Boulevard and Wilshire Boulevard are highly, highly trafficked and are very, inhospitable for anyone who's not in a car. And so Ohio Avenue is kind of that third option that is a much calmer neighborhood street already, but it's highly used by cut-through traffic of people who are diverting off of Santa Monica Boulevard, trying to get to Westwood and moving east to west. But in terms of identifying which street we could build a strong facility for people ages 8 to 80, Ohio stands out because of that undercrossing without the freeway off-ramps. And then, of course, connecting into the city of Santa Monica's bike network would be fantastic. And then it couples with our improvements on Westwood Boulevard, so we can really start building out a network on the west side. Lastly, Ohio is quite flat. so it makes it easy to bike on. For as fun as riding a bicycle is, riding a bicycle uphill is not as fun. So that's kind of a great benefit to the street. We did a little digging into the Metro bike share ridership in this area. Some of these stats kind of call out specifically in the Sawtell area where there's a few stations. You can see the ridership increasing significantly between 2023 and 2024, and that there's a real mix, as you may expect, of how people are using Metro bikes. You know, a third of them are staying local within Sawtell, a fifth of trips from Sawtell start or end at UCLA, and then another 2/5 are going to another West Side location. This is a photo of what Ohio looks like now, which really kind of shows some of the challenges that you might experience as a bicycle rider there today. See, there's no dedicated bicycle facility. That bike rider's kind of off to the right, hugging the curb. So they're doing that, because they're trying to gain some space away from the traffic that's approaching behind them. What it creates is a situation where a bicyclist needs to weave in and out of the drive lane, that they'll move behind a parked car, and they're going to arrive at that parked car in 50 feet in front of them and have to merge back into the travel lane. And that kind of movement in and out of the travel lane is just one of the factors that can lead to a collision, especially when you start having high traffic volumes and aggressive driving. So here's a rendering of the proposed design on Ohio. It's a two-way cycle track separated by a concrete buffer. Here at Sepulveda, there's also a curb extension to help shorten the crossing distance and a signal modification to add a protected left turn. Here's another view of the facility from above. So you see the two-way cycle track. This would be at Sawtell, where you can move both directions through the intersection. It's on the north side of the street. And then there's many locations where we're also adding ADA curb ramps and improving sidewalks at the intersection. So in addition to providing that two-way bicycle facility, what it also offers is a shortened crossing distance, because it's easier for a pedestrian to kind of step out where there's some bicycle lanes, because they're not contending for space with cars. And there's a shorter distance between that buffer, between the bike lane and the turn pocket to reach the other side of the street. So that can just make a more comfortable experience and safer experience for pedestrians. This image is, somewhat representative of what we could see on Ohio, with the major difference being that this is a one-way bike lane and what we're proposing is a two-way bike lane. But what you see here is a mixture of materials. So you have concrete at the intersection where it's most important to harden that separation. You have parking alongside the bike lane, which just adds space to park, as well as the parked car itself provides buffers and a vertical hardened separation protection for that bike lane. And then you have some plastic or rubber modular materials that can be placed alongside the parking that just delineate the space. We won't have these exact materials, but you can kind of imagine what that we'll be using some of these different tools in order to build the project. In the area where there's neighborhood streets, so that's Texas Avenue, Rochester, Westgate, Saltaire. These are some of the materials and designs we're proposing for traffic calming. So traffic circles, such as what's shown here, as well as speed humps and wayfinding, should help to reinforce the calm neighborhood street element and provide some more support and make it a just more comfortable ride for people who are bicycling. There are some considerations. There are some considerations for this project because there's always going to be some kind of give and take in any street design. So something that's necessary in order to install the two-way cycle track are these turn restrictions at a few locations that are marked here: Barrington, Federal, Sawtell, and Veteran. Part of the reasoning behind that is balancing delay to traffic as well as all the movements on the street. So when you have a two-way bike lane, you need to separate that movement where they're moving east to west from the cars that are turning over that street. And so if you are to allow the left there, you need to completely separate all the movements where only the bikes go, and then only the turned cars can go, and then only the cars that are going east and west go, and then only the cars that are going north and south can go. And when you have that type of split phasing, very quickly lead to just you're not moving at all, and you're kind of waiting for anyone to turn, and only a couple cars can get through a light per cycle. And so when we modeled it, it was far above kind of any tolerable limit. It could be an increase of 5 or 10 minutes per mile in traffic. So instead, we're recommending to prevent some of those turns, and just keep traffic moving east to west. Part of the reason I think that's kind of more tolerable in this area is that Ohio is very close to Santa Monica Boulevard. And so you're still able to take a left from Santa Monica onto Barrington, or take a left from Santa Monica onto Federal, etc. So a lot of people right now are kind of getting off of Santa Monica, hopping onto Ohio, and then taking a left on Barrington. Instead, they would need to stay on Santa Monica Boulevard until Barrington and take a left there. There are still left turns permitted at Sepulveda, where we have the highest left turn volume. Most people, trying to reach the 405 freeway, and then Westwood Boulevard as well, as people are going up to Westwood Village and UCLA. The next slides, we'll talk a bit more about the parking loss, as well as some of the changes in travel time that we do expect. So as I mentioned, there's not necessarily space for everything on the street. We do our best to preserve as much parking spaces as possible. But these are some of the reductions that we're expecting on Ohio Avenue. So between Westgate and Sepulveda, a net loss of 33 parking spaces. Those are kind of listed out here, with 20 spot reduction between Westgate and Barry, 9 spots Barry to Butler, 17 Barry to Sawtell, and then an addition of 13 spaces between Sawtell and Sepulveda. And moving further west, 27 spaces on street between Sepulveda and Westwood, as shown here. There are some public parking lots that provide free parking overnight for anyone in the area between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So those are just paid lots. They're city-owned lots that can be used by anyone also during the day. You pay the meter fee, but overnight, that is also free parking that could absorb some of that diversion if you're not able to park on the street where you used to.
I apologize for the interruption. In the interest of time, I would ask that you wrap up the presentation and we can have some time for questions.
Sure. I can kind of skip through. Yeah, I'll maybe 2 more minutes. There's some change in travel time. You can see it here, but this is anticipated increase in delay as a result of this project between 30 seconds and about 2 minutes per mile. So that's, the whole quarter is 1.3 miles. So if you're traveling from end to end, that's kind of the increase in travel time that you would expect. I'll wrap up with the community engagement, where we have a similar plan for as we're implementing for Westwood Boulevard. So there's many of the similar opportunities you have to engage. All of it's listed on our website. There's also a survey that details some of these changes and proposed improvements where you can provide feedback. So please take that survey and share it widely. You'll also see the events that we're hosting, where you can come and talk to staff in person and share your thoughts. And that's the end of the presentation. Happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Jack. We'll open up to some questions if we have any from our people attending today. Okay, so with no questions, we'd like to thank you very much, Jack, for your time and your presentation, and we look forward to the further developments regarding the public transportation.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, I'll go back to sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay. All right. So yes, we have a very packed agenda. So please, in the interest of time, if you have presentations or need to speak, please be brief. We will now go ahead and move on to some updates from our student regent, Sonia Brooks. You're welcome to use that mic or whatever is convenient for you to present. I can use yes, okay. Okay, and then I can use my screen to pull up the presentation.
Perfect. Can you hear me? Probably not. Mic check. Okay, cool. Hey. Hi, everyone. Hold on. Okay, perfect. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what it is that I have to say. As the student regent, I want to really create a space where we can talk openly about what's happening across the UC and not just the policies, but what's happening to the people that it impacts. So today, my goal is to share a few key initiatives that affect us as graduate students, specifically the tuition stability plan that is coming up for a vote at their regents meeting next week, an initiative called UC Me, UCU, UC Life Suicide Awareness and Prevention, and then also a new initiative that's called Brewing Fresh. So after going through this, hopefully it inspires some of you to get involved. And because each of these efforts center student well-being, equity, and sustainability, and they need our voices. So let's start with something that has been shaping the financial landscape for all of us, the Tuition Stability Plan, or TSP, and what it really means for students like us. So, Tuition Stability Plan aims to provide predictability in tuition and fees, yet graduate students remain disproportionately affected by the fluctuating non-tuition costs, such as housing, healthcare, and campus fees. Federal cuts to graduate loan limits, and the elimination of certain aid programs deepen the inequities for students of color and low-income scholars pursuing advanced degrees. Without investment from the UC, the burden of affordability shifts to students, threatening access, retention, and degree completion across all graduate programs. The goal for this conversation is to advocate for the inclusion of graduate-specific relief measures within the TSP framework to ensure financial stability, equity, and sustainability for all advanced degree students. And again, this is coming up on the vote on at the Regents meeting that will be held here next week. And so what they're specifically asking is that currently when a student pays fees, 45% of those fees go into a bucket called return to aid. And the rest of those fees go towards SSF, which is Student Services Fund. But because we don't know exactly where those funds are going and how they really help students, they're asking for the 45% return to aid to be reduced to 33% and a 1% add-on to help with buildings and capital projects. So in essence, they're putting the maintenance of buildings on the backs of students. So again, this is coming up for vote next week. So while financial stability is a major part of our well-being, it's just one piece of the bigger picture. The next initiative I want to highlight focuses on something even more fundamental, our mental health and lives. This suicide awareness and prevention campaign really centers collective well-being and underscores that one life lost is too many across our UC system. It seeks to humanize mental health by amplifying student stories, increasing campus-wide visibility, and promoting shared responsibility for care. In collaboration with UC Student Affairs and CAPS leaderships, as well as Res Life, we will help translate awareness into measurable prevention, intervention, and post-vention outcomes. So what I'm doing here is creating a unified UC framework for suicide prevention that is compassionate, data-driven, and grounded in community care. And what most of you may not know is since the beginning of the academic year, UCLA has already experienced 15 deaths, and this is including undergraduate, mainly undergraduate students. And a couple of years ago, the graduate student population was hit very hard with suicides. So just wanting to kind of keep you in mind of that. And just as mental health is essential, so is our physical well-being, especially when it comes to creating or to basic needs like food access and nourishment. That's where the Brew and Fresh initiative comes in. So Brew and Fresh is UCLA's emerging model for addressing student food insecurity through infrastructure, equity, and sustainability. The initiative builds on the success of Aggie Fresh from UC Davis and also connects students to healthy, culturally relevant, and affordable food options year-round. It aligns with UC Basic Needs priorities by integrating recovery, redistribution, and education to reduce waste and nourish our most vulnerable. The goal is to launch Brew and Fresh as a replicable, system-wide framework for eliminating food insecurity and advancing holistic student wellness. So each of these projects is only as strong as the people that are behind them. And so that's why I'm inviting you to become a part of this work and to really shape what equity, care, and community can really look like across the UC. And as I wrap up, I wanted to remind you that real change really doesn't start in policy. It really starts with us. And every one of these initiatives depends on our collective power. So whether it's fighting for affordability through the tuition stability plan or protecting our mental health through the other campaign or ensuring that no student goes hungry through Brew and Fresh, this is a shared work. So if any of these initiatives sound important to you, please let me know because I'm more than happy to bring you aboard to help in keeping this conversation going, as well as lending your voice and your creativity and your leadership to these initiatives. I don't know if you want to talk about the amendment now or if that's that later. Because I went through this as quickly as I
Sure.
could.
And thank you for your brevity. Yes, on the agenda, there is a resolution for this Brew and Fresh initiative. Um, I can have you very briefly summarize that when it's time to vote or when it's time to discuss it.
Okay.
And then because we won't be able to read the resolution in its entirety
Okay.
during this forum, but you can just provide a summary and then we can vote.
Later.
Yes, later.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so now returning back to the agenda, we have one last presentation. Jack Fung, you have the floor, and it's regarding the Sepulveda Transit Corridor Initiative.
Oh, okay. Okay, hi everyone. So I'm here with AZ from UCLA Government Community Relations team to talk about this project, Sepulveda Transit Corridor for All initiative. So we will make this as quickly as possible. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Once that access is put through, I'll refresh and then we can continue.
now.
Okay, or we go ahead and refresh. Okay.
Okay, so yesterday, so hopefully everybody knows there's a very awesome content creator, UCLA undergrad student. His name's Charlie, and he has a huge platform called Good Morning UCLA. And he posted, also cross-posted with GSA, with me, with USEC to highlight this initiative. So this is like a 1-minute clip. So Jay, if you can play it.
Los Angeles had some of the best public transportation. Boasting the world's largest electric rail system, but those days are long gone. Today, there's more accessible transportation. And where the boulevard, where the D line is being. Fortunately, though, the D line doesn't connect to campus. When your house, it connects right ready to get to work. Hi, everyone. My name is Diego Boyle. I serve as president. Today at the Public Transit Corridor Rally in advocating and fighting for this. Done with traffic, stop at UCLA, fast and check the caption. Don't forget.
Yeah, okay, so unfortunately we had a little bit of technical difficulty. So for those who couldn't hear in the audio, for among those who are joining on Zoom, please just play the clip, on your phone, on laptop. Okay, so next slide, please.
Yeah, so this is a little background on this Pullman to Transit Corridor project. So this proposed project would build a rail line connecting the San Fernando Valley to the west side of LA. It would reduce traffic to about 20 minutes, and it would reduce traffic on the 405, which is one of the busiest freeways in the country. And with this line, we would have a direct station on campus and a direct connection to the Metro D line, which is being built right now. And then the final proposed plan for this project would have a line connecting all the way to LAX. So you'd be able to ride all the way from the Valley to LAX. And here's the proposed plan. It would show the area and all the lines it would connect to. So as you can see, it would have a lot of seamless connection to all across the city, and it would make it a lot more accessible. So here's a bit of information about UCLA students and faculty who are in the Valley to show who would benefit from this project. So as you see, we have thousands of students and employees who are in the Valley who could use this to get to campus easier, to get to the hospital. I am personally actually from the Valley, so if this line did exist, I would benefit from it. I could go home and come back a lot easier than I can now. Here's some information about the UCLA commuters. So a part of the commuters on campus, about 26 are coming from the north, from the Valley. So thousands of commuters go down the 405 every day, and this would make it a lot more easier to connect to the 405, the 101. There's just more information about the commuters. And here's about the affordability. So as you all know, the West Side is one of the most expensive areas in LA, and it makes it very inaccessible for many students and faculty and staff to live near school. And so it might be very beneficial for students to live at home and commute to school, but right now it's extremely hard for students who are in the Valley to commute to school due to the intense traffic on the 405. And on the right is a survey that was given to staff who were given transit passes for the reasons why they obtained the traffic pass. And the two biggest reasons are affordability and accessibility to other transit options. So having this line connect to the Valley would benefit so many people and make it so much easier to get to campus.
Okay, so this is where we are with this project. So 10 years ago, LA County voters approved this project. And 10 years later, back in June, LA Board of Metro, they released this report under this law for public comment. And the board received over 8,000 comments. And now we're looking at the board to identify a locally preferred alternative. So there are 5 real options for the public to comment on, indicate their preference. There are a lot of interests involved in that discussion. So they're going to make that decision in 2026. And once there's alignment, there will be more environmental review and there will be more processes for development. So there will be more public comment session as well for the public, including students, to engage. Next slide. So I want to quickly highlight this coalition, Supervisory Transit Corridor for All. So we're a coalition of organizations and supporters across the region, including GSA, USAC, nonprofit organization, educated workers, etc. So we really want to, make sure this project, is implemented in a way that makes sense and serve the best public interest. So we're advocating for a line, alternative 4 or 5, with a direct station on campus, with a seamless connection to the Purple D line on Wilshire. So think about that. Okay, and there are 2 videos, but I feel like we're not gonna play it. So just play it when you're free. It's very awesome, and just learning more about who are involved, who are the organizations, and why this matters to our graduate students. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so I want to quickly highlight some of the efforts the GSA has put out since June 2025 to support this initiative. So the pictures you're looking at, well, on the left is myself. I was speaking at the Supervisory Transit Corridor for All press conference back in June on the day when the environmental impact report was released. We were standing outside the LA Metro headquarters, with a group of organization, elected officials, educated workers. And we were really trying to push this forward. And after the press conference, we went to the Metro board meeting and being recognized for our advocacy work. And it's really, really hard to see, but the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, is actually in that picture. And she is one of the voting members of the Metro board, who has not given any indication on this project yet. So we're really trying to push forward. Click. So after the press conference, local newspapers, Los Angeles Daily News, highlight this effort, really trying to, help with public sentiments to gather more support. Next slide. Cue. So back in August, like I said earlier, the public comment period for the public and including students engaged ended at the end of August. So back in August, I attended LA Metro Board hearing session for this project where I submitted a oral public comment on behalf of GSA, indicating that our grad students will greatly benefit from this project with alternatives 4 or 5. Can you click? Yes, please click. Yeah, so this was as recent as October. So in collaboration with USAC, Undergraduate Student Association Council, and a few other elected officials in the local community, Culver City, West Hollywood, including LA Councilwoman, who is a voting board member who represents the Valley area. We did a press conference on UCLA campus. We were also able to gather some news coverage as well. Click. So as you see, there are some titles being reported from the news reporting from Daily Born and Move LA. Click. Okay, so quickly, we're here not only to highlight the work that we've been doing, for this initiative, but we really wanted to encourage our graduate and professional students to get involved in local advocacy for this project. So there is a student-led advocacy program called Support the Transit Corridor Student Ambassador, where you will be closely collaborate with my office in the GSA and advocacy team at UCLA administration and neighborhood councils and Metro board members and nonprofit leaders to really advocate for equitable, accessible public transportation. I mean, it's a great way to, really try to make an impact. Think about the amount of time we could have been, that could have been saved from the horrible 4 or 5 2-hour traffics every day, so that we can simply recharge or rest or mentor our undergraduate students through our GSR positions or TA positions. So I think, and currently, we are really trying to encourage encourage more representation from our graduate students to serve in this program. But obviously, you know, we're here to support if you want to be part of this program. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the last slide. So that's a QR code for signing up for the Student Ambassador Program. And if you have any questions, concerns, you can contact me and AZ. So would like to address any questions at this time. Thank you.
And thank you, Jack and Izzy, for taking the time to present on this exciting possibility for UCLA and UCLA students. So I would like to remind, you know, these are jumping off points for all of us as graduate students. So if you have people in your, you know, in your councils as your constituents that have interest in this, please share these resources and information with them so that they can reach out to the proper channels. Thank you all. Okay, so now we will go ahead and move on to the next part of the agenda, which is appointments. Naomi, do you have any updates on that for us?
Hello. Okay. So appointments, we had about 5 or 6 appointments in the past 2 weeks. So again, we just need a vote to approve those as the GSA forum. And so I just need a motion to approve the appointments thus far. We have a motion? Amazing. Do I have a second?
All right, motion and second, and all those in favor of voting in favor of the appointments made, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. You may lower your hands. Those of you against the appointments made, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, and then those that wish to abstain, please indicate by the same sign. Thank you. Okay, so now we will go ahead and move on to the next part of our agenda, which is officer reports. We will begin with some information from our administrative representatives. Jessica, I'll let you have the floor.
Testing. Okay. Hi. SGS, the Student Government Services and Student Government Accounting, want to share about our upcoming requisition clinic. It's in January. We have 2 of them, Monday, January 5th, and Thursday, January 8th. They're going to be held before all fall event requisition forms are due, and that's on January 9th. We're going to be going over which forms to use, the documents you need, a full process walkthrough, and it's an excellent place for specific or informal questions and one-on-one help, so you don't have to visit the student accounting office. So again, that's coming up on January 5th and 8th. I think it's linked in the agenda. Also, our requisition tracker is now up, and that is on the GSA website in the budget reports. So that's updated weekly, and you can see where, or you can see the status and of your requisition submissions through the document.
Lovely, thank you. Are there any other administrative updates, Jessica, Pamela?
Yeah, just one other quick update. So, Elise is working on a survey for grad student programming. So that should be launching shortly. And we'll make sure we email it out to everybody. But if you all could fill it out and share it with any folks in your councils, just to gauge, you know, where students are at with, you know, being connected to ASUCLA, to GSA, and then trying to get an idea for like what types of programs y'all want to see, and sort of location, time, day of the week that's best for grad students so that we can kind of program a little bit better to meet your needs. So that will be coming shortly. And we are at the end of the quarter, so please do make sure you start filling out your rec forms. Student government accounting is going to be open through finals week and probably like the first week of break. So please just submit them online so that we can get those processed. And then the rec deadline will be coming up in winter quarter for any fall quarter activities. So if you have questions about that, please let us know sooner rather than later. And definitely check out that rec tracker because this is, the first time we've had any kind of document like this. And, just really, really grateful to the whole team in student government accounting and student government services for getting that together and live online. So now you can kind of self-serve where your rec is at in the process. So please do check it out and give us feedback if there's anything we need to update on that.
Okay, thank you. No further updates? Great. All right. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our other officer reports. We will begin with Naomi Hammond's report as president.
Hello. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so in week 6, a lot of meetings. If you just go down. Okay. So we've had a couple meetings, especially around basic needs, given everything going on, especially with the disruptions that with CalFresh that were in the beginning a couple weeks ago. So met with CPR Community Programs Office to discuss their increasing of food closet hours and restocking. We're also working with the Community Programs Office to get their food carts program, which is basically just a cart that they restock with different like grab and go snacks that students can grab. So we're getting those expanded to graduate and professional schools. The most recent one they did was to the theater, film, and television program. I believe that's TFT. Yeah, TFT program. They're working on the law school, and then next they're thinking about dentistry, education, nursing. And then we're just going to continue the conversations from there to expand those to hopefully all of the programs. And so in addition to that, just been meeting with other stakeholders as well about basic needs, being our folks in student affairs. Had a few conversations with ASUCLA about a program that I'm going to be excited. Hopefully we're going to try and launch for the remainder of this quarter. So more details to come on that. The appointment interviews, we've had a couple different meetings. Regarding some collaborations that we have coming up, being a transit trip with the Graduate Student Resource Center. We're going to be doing a screening of Wicked. And so just a lot of events coming up. Besides that, just been meeting with some different vice chancellors in some quarterly meetings to discuss different topics. And then we had 2 events. One, really thankful for y'all for coming to the Chancellor's Fireside Chat for folks that were able to make it. And then we also had another dialogue with Dean Kite. And so just I'm seeing some common themes come up, which will influence the events we do for next quarter as well. In addition to that, just this week, more meetings, especially around LA 28, the research park and how that is progressing. That was a recent acquisition from UCLA, was it last year or the year before? And then we just recently established our graduate welfare committee. So that is me, the Graduate Student Resource Center, various deans, people in student affairs, people in career services, Pamela Lewis and ASUCLA to talk about some of the needs that we see graduates are having based on a survey that they completed last year. And so we established our priorities for that. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what I got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Naomi. Okay. So, yes, we'll go ahead and move on to my report. It will be quite short. Let's see. Okay. So in the time since the last meeting, I have proposed some code changes to, changes to the GSA codes, and those have been included on the agenda. We will be voting on those in the new business section of our agenda. There is in the week 1 forum meeting, part of my report, you can see a list of the summary of changes that I made. I will go over those once it is time to kind of open up discussion and then vote on that. But feel free to refer to that for a quick summary. And then there will be a second round of changes to be proposed based on an external consultant's recommendations. And this was just to make sure that our documents were consistent between the codes, the Constitution, and then other guiding policy documents that are external to both of those. And this will most likely happen next quarter. In addition to that, my Director of Internal Affairs had to step down due to other obligations and constraints. And so at this point, I am currently looking for a new director of internal affairs, which would involve things like attendance, taking minutes, which is why I don't have minutes prepared for this meeting. So my apologies to all those in attendance. Um, so if you happen to know of people within your council or your organization that would be interested in this position, they can apply via the GSA website, and they can also reach out to me by my Vice President Internal GSA email if they would like additional details. So yes, due to the vacancy in the position currently, please be patient as there will be delays in getting those minutes prepared for each GSA forum meeting. And then lastly, I wanted to bring up some concerns that students had brought up to me regarding the daily parking permit restrictions and changes that you might have seen. So for those of you that purchase parking permits daily or otherwise, you may have noticed a little advisory saying that beginning next year, they would either reduce or eliminate those daily parking permits that can be purchased. And this does introduce some strain, especially on our graduate population that may not necessarily need to commute every day of the week for an entire quarter. And so we will be in communication with those involved in transportation and parking logistics, and hopefully be working towards a solution that provides the most benefit. I would also recommend reaching out to your constituents in each council because I'm certain that all of you have commuters and maybe have commuters that don't need to purchase a quarterly permit, but may benefit from an occasional daily parking pass. So please be in conversation with your councils, and whatever concerns they may have, please bring them back to forum, and we can continue having those conversations and working towards a solution that works and benefits all of us, especially as graduate students. With that, I have no more to report, so we will go ahead and move on to Satara's report as Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Okay, mine's pretty short. So the main things is that me and Jack, the EVP, will be collaborating with the GSRC for a study jam, and that's going to be taking place on December 2nd from 3 to 5 p.m. And we'll just have snacks and refreshments for everyone who joins. Besides that, the other most important thing is I'm going to be having a meeting with the Graduate Writing Center. They had emailed me recently regarding the Graduate Writing Center Oversight Committee and just kind of wanted to go over the planning process for the GWC that will be coming up because they want to have more meetings starting next quarter. Other than that, I think this was in Naomi's report as well, but we had a meeting from Academic Planning and Budget, and this was kind of just to go over different academic program reviews and proposals that they had and just asking for any feedback we had. And that's all from me. I'll hand it over to Jack.
Thank you, Satara. Yeah, I'll go ahead and open up Jack's report.
Hello. Okay, hi again. This is Jack. I'm the EVP of GSA. So since last GSA forum, we had a meeting with the Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer, Academic Planning Budget Team. Naomi and Satara already mentioned that, so I'm gonna skip that. Also recently met with Sole Advisor Mike to talk about EVP Office current priority, initiative, etc. On November 5th, I attended the bi-weekly meeting with UCOP Federal Government Relations team on a range of issues, particularly at the time, the SNAP benefits from the government shutdown, the minority serving institution grant terminations across UC, and we were also talking about advocacy trips coming up next year. Stay tuned. And we also, expressed a lot of concerns regarding some of the recent proposed and enacted changes to H-1B visa that will impact our international students post graduation employment plans. Another very exciting opportunity coming up. So I recently met with the director of campus organizing and training at Is On Us, which is a national organization combating to sexual assault. We talk about potential areas, avenues of collaboration and partnership between UCLA and their organization. They're looking to host their the annual Partners in Prevention Summit at UCLA. And not only they wanted to highlight some of the national and regional efforts in this area, but also they want to make this more centered around UCLA and a UC system-wide initiatives and updates. So I'm currently, trying to get some interest in building this partnership and coalition with different student organizations across UCLA is on us. So recently, November 5th, next page, please. Yes. So attended the Northwest Wood Neighborhood Council meeting. So, part of the EVP office, we also, want to continue building those community relationships in this very area. So we talk about, a range of issues, transportation, which we just talk a lot at this meeting. So we also mentioned a lot of other things regarding UCLA education and housing and community events and government affairs. So I'm not gonna go through the whole list. So we can go to the next item. So on November 6th, also had a meeting with UCLA State Government Relations team on aligned priority and strategies for the 2026 state legislative session. So two very important bills that will ultimately become a state ballot measure next year if passed in the state legislature that will potentially benefit our institution and our students. One focus on student housing, the other one focus on science funding. So, there's a lot uncertainties in the process, but stay tuned. Advocacy is persistent work. We also shared about, I also expressed interest and concerns regarding basic needs support from the state legislatures, but that is always dependent on the state budget, which is TBD in January 2026. So November 6th, joined Naomi and other folks from GSA at the Chancellor Fireside Chat. That was very awesome. Thank you again. And the dialogue with the Dean GSA event was also really great. I specifically addressed some concerns regarding international students, limited funding access to certain division of graduate education fellowship categories. So now I'm waiting for a formal response from his team. Recently also met with and attended the Broom Fresh work group meeting with UC Student Region Sonia, who's here with us in person. We established committee assignments and also agreed on deliverables within the 2-month timeline of completion. This is going to be great. And on November 7th, very important, had a meeting with UCOP on their drafted SB 90A compliance implementation across UC campuses. So this was mentioned at previous forum meeting where I shared updates regarding this bill. So basically, SB 90A has been signed by the governor, and that bill, now legally mandates every school and college campus across the state of California to notify students and community members when immigration federal agents are confirmed on campus. In terms of compliance and implementation, that is what the meeting was about. So, I added a few, points addressed from the UCOP. You can read them. Currently, the guidance has not been finalized, but it's going to be an implementation plan under each UC campus discretion. Student leaders have some concerns about how they interpret the state law, so we're going to keep advocating, in terms of in compliance with the state law with intent. So November 8th. UC GPC, UC Graduate Professional Student Council, my office hosted the board meeting, and we went over a few key areas of discussion. CalFresh, also UC-GBC, has been in the process of hiring for legislative director, and actually we received some applications from UCLA community, so which is great. And there is a student advocates program implementation as well, which I'm going to talk about in later part of this parent report. And then we're also talking about November Regions meeting planning as well. And so right after that, so UC-GPC, UC Student Association, and the Council of Presidents, we met together to kind of like share insights, really trying to check in with one another, like in terms of what's going on the ground across the UC system. We're trying to strategize on a lot of issues that I listed here. And on November 12th, I attended the UCGBC START. START is a program from UCGBC called Student Regents, Student Advocate to the Regent. This is a program I've been promoting, advertising through GSA channel of communications. Every UC grad students can apply. So basically you would have opportunity to directly speak to the regents behind the scene and with more access to the meetings and stuff. So these are my prepared topics I wanted to bring to the regions. But if you have anything else you would like me to elevate, feel free to contact me right away. On November 12th, which was yesterday, I attended another LA Metro virtual community meeting regarding the bus line number 2 that runs from USC, University of Southern California, to UCLA, the number 2. Yeah, today I met, discussed with Satara, our VP of Academic Affairs, about the Study Jam event we want to do in December. So 2 opportunities I want to quickly mention: the Student Advocates Program. So UCGBC, we're seeking, one UCLA student advocate to elevate, our student interests and priorities for UC federal advocacy campaigns. It's a paid position and it's a temporary only for 2 months. And you will get a stipend directly from UCGPC, and you will be in close collaboration with me as well. And if you need additional support for any campus activation efforts, I'm more than willing to support that. And next, the last item as opportunity is the Board of Regents meeting, which is next Tuesday through Thursday. At UCLA, so highly encourage y'all to submit public comments, either in person or written comments. And if you need any support in terms of drafting, crafting, delivering, navigating the space, please contact me. I will be there 3 days in a row. And UEW 4811, our labor union for student employee. Academic student employees is hosting a rally on November 20 on the Thursday after the Regents meeting. You can learn more about it, and there will be a mobilization rally as well, focusing on cohort tuition that will be discussed at the Regents meeting as well. So that's it for now from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate you taking the time to share your report. All right, so with the conclusion of the officer reports, we will go ahead and move on to the next part of the agenda, which is old business. This would be the only thing we have on the agenda for old business is the graduate student lounge renovation, and then all other issues related to this motion. So we will go ahead and open up the floor for discussion, and then after discussion, we can take things to a vote.
We have some slides to present as well. Because folks asked for photos in our last meeting, so we got that attached into a document. Before we go ahead into this discussion, what I just want to say in regards to putting it on the agenda for last meeting was a note intent on my part to just make a decision in isolation. Especially as president and a non-voting member, I really wanted to bring it to the council, including the student interest board groups, to have a conversation about this, right? I'm never gonna be the one to be like, okay, let's just do this and my way is the only way. Never. And that's how I lead. We really just wanted it to be an open discussion, show you what's going on. So we do have those slides presented that my amazing chief of staff will be presenting for tonight. And then we'll leave it to questions and discussion as always. Okay? Sound like a plan.
Thank you. And then Jonathan would be the link I shared with you earlier is the slides.
Oh, that link. Hold
Yes.
on. Yes, 1 second. I apologize. I have many tabs open. Here we go.
All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Jackson Fletcher. I am the GSA Chief of Staff, and I am also a graduate student in electrical and computer engineering. And I want to start by just thanking you all for your time. Are you able to control it, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. So this is just a little background information about what the actual request is and clarifying up any misunderstanding that may have taken place in the last meeting. But we do have a graduate lounge for those of you who don't know. There is a dedicated space in Kirkhoff Hall that is centrally located, and it's a space dedicated purely for graduate students. So I know that there are other graduate spaces on campus in libraries and certain schools, and we have the Graduate Student Resource Lounge, but we do not have a dedicated social space that you all know about, which is this lounge right here. And so within Kirkhoff Hall 136, there is an actual lounge. There are the GSA executive offices, and then there's a conference room. The thing about this space is that it's very outdated. The furniture is big and bulky and dark. We still have the mailroom slots on the wall. That's probably the last time it was renovated. So it's outdated, it lacks functionality, and it's rarely used for those reasons. Next slide. So we have a separate space. We have a few spaces in Kirkhoff, but there's another space, which is Kirkhoff Hall 160, A through C, and it's currently being utilized as the sustainability office. And then Kirkhoff 160C, which I'll be focusing on for this conversation, houses CalPERG. And I am not 100% familiar with what CalPERG is, but at the time of this establishing, the reason it's in this GSA space is because it was a shared GSA and USAC movement. So CalPERG was both USAC and GSA. Now it seems to be primarily undergraduate, but they do stay in this space. And of the 3 rooms in 160, 160C is the only space that has been allocated to CalPERG. So we have another space, also Kirkhoff Hall 138, which is currently used by the Student Interest Board, which came to vote in, I believe, March of last year as their official space. And the Student Interest Board currently has 3 that I know of organizations, which is BGSA, LGSA, and the ADCC. And then there's KH 138, which currently seems to serve as a storage space within the facility, but these are the spaces within 138. Next slide. So we've submitted a proposal to actually renovate this space, our graduate lounge. And this is actually old business, not just because we spoke about it last meeting, but because last year we actually had considered using our carryover funds to fund the renovation of this room. So there is a proposal now. We've reached out to a company to allow us to create a space that is enhanced for programming and community building. So if any of the councils want to host an event in this room, it'd be welcoming and usable. A place for studying, a place for relaxing, and an actual designated centralized social space for all graduate students. Next slide. Now, the upgrade is a costly one. So when we asked to use the carryover funds from last year, it was met with a bit of resistance because we didn't have a cute mock-up like this and we didn't know how much it was going to cost completely. But the cost of this enhancement would be covered by ASUCLA student-run enterprises, or also known as ASUCLA student activities. So the cost to have the space renovated that would not come out of our budget is $30 to $40K for the lounge space. The timeline is to be determined. Ideally, we would like to have it done by spring quarter, but it's all hinging on whether we vote on it and how things move forward after that. And then this does not include the GSA offices or the conference room, unfortunately, but this is just creating a main space for all councils to be able to utilize. Next slide. Now, while there is no monetary cost to us, there is a cost to GSA, and it comes with relinquishing a space because, as you all know, we need space across campus. But we have a space that we have not continually used, which is Kirkhoff Hall 160 A through C. Specifically, the question comes up for where CalPERG would go. And so we were proposing that CalPERG move into the small space from 160C, which is about 120 square feet, to Kirkhoff Hall 138A, that small storage room, which is just slightly bigger at about, I think, 150 or something, 130 to 150 square feet. So that's what the actual discussion is, if we would allow CalPERG to move into 138A, which is a small office off of the Student Interest Board space. So we're going to open this up for discussion. In lieu of the statement that came from the student interest boards, having that space being accessible by what would be primarily undergraduates, President Hammond did go forth and look for alternatives to this motion. So you want to talk about what the alternatives would be for that?
Yeah, so as of right now, CalPERG is housed in that sustainability space that we saw in Kirchhoff Hall 160. With that, since CalPERG is housed in one of the GSA spaces, they do pay us rent. So we collect about $600 from them per month, which totals to about $6,000 per year. So the other option that after going back to ASUCLA and discussing with them would be we give up Kirchhoff Hall 160 entirely and CalPERG move to a different space in Kirchhoff. So if they were to move to a different space in Kirchhoff, that $6,000 would no longer go to the GSA budget. And that's our other option that after discussion with them. So first option, just to rehash, would be CalPERG move into the back room of the Student Interest Board Group Lounge in Kirchhoff Hall 138. We keep the rent, $6,000 per year, or we continue to relinquish Kirchhoff Hall 160 and CalPERG move to a different space outside of GSA, one of the GSA owned spaces, and we would no longer receive that rent in our budget. Now open for questions and discussion.
I noticed
we got-
there was a hand that was raised right before the presentation started by Shakaya Harrison. Yes, so. Oh, she wanted to get promoted. I see. Oh, I didn't. Okay.
I just needed to get into the meeting. I just needed to get into the meeting, Jay. I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. Mhm.
Yes. And please state your name when the mic is on. Also the council that you're from.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's working. All right. Sorry. My name is João Aguiar, full-time MBA with Anderson. Yeah, my question is just is not clear to me if this relocation would be permanent or if it's just temporary during the remodeling process.
So for CalPERG to relocate to Kirchhoff Hall 138A, the back room of the Student Interest Board, that'd be a permanent reallocation.
So how are those two things connected? Sorry.
No, that's a great question. So it's connected because in order to get ASUCLA student-run enterprises to cover the costs of the renovation for the lounge, they are requesting that we relinquish 160, which houses CalPERG. So that gives us two options. The option is now to relocate CalPERG into another one of our locations, which is a GSA choice, or to relinquish the space completely and force CalPERG to find a new space elsewhere. And so the reason that's relevant is financially, if we remove CalPERG completely, we lose $6,000 in funds from the rent that they do provide per year. But it is an option. But if we want to be able to get the cost covered and have this centralized space, ASUCLA is asking for us to relinquish 160. And again, of 160, only 160C, only one office of the three is currently being utilized. The other ones are vacant as far as GSA use is concerned. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Of course.
Do we have other questions, comments in person or on Zoom? Okay, we have Mati Castillo. The chair recognizes you. You have the floor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mati. I'm the current chair for the Latina Graduate Student Association. We are part of the Student Interest Board, and we are the people who are most utilizing Kirchhoff 138 and 138A. We just want to emphasize that, we utilize both spaces. 138A acts as a storage space for a lot of our stuff. So when we're tabling, that's where all our materials go. That's where they live. We have weekly meetings, and the materials we use on a weekly basis do live in there. Additionally, 138 is a space that we use for affinity spaces during admitted student days. We use it for study hours throughout the week. We use it for our general body meetings. Really, our main concern is just the fact that to get to 138A, you have to go through 138. And that is a space that currently, the only people who have access are the board members of the Student Interest Board organizations. We have invested our own money into renovating 138. We've spent money on getting our own furniture, our own decorations. So we're really hesitant to allow an organization that we don't have a working relationship into that space and to having open access basically to a place that we've kind of cultivated into a community for a lot of grad students who are, even more marginalized due to our ethnic backgrounds. So we really just hope that you take into consideration the fact that this is a space that has been utilized for almost 3 years now by our organizations, and it would significantly impact just like our flow of work as an organization, our general body members, because they know to find us there. We really don't have a centralized space for our organizations. This is that space, so we really don't want to lose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mati. Yes, Satara.
I have like a question and a comment, I guess. So first my question is, so if we relinquish, I think it was 160 entirely and we lose the budget, like the $6,000 a year, I guess could you kind of elaborate in terms of like that $6,000, like how necessary is it for us to have that if we chose like the option of just relinquishing this space compared to if we just move them to the 138A. But like I guess like kind of breaking down what that $6,000 is used for.
So I guess that would go back to like our overall budget of $6,000. Like that's $6,000 in our overall budget. But I don't have like a percentage wise. Jessica, do you have any input on that? Like for like so like where it goes?
Ye- Yeah.
Oh, so the CalPERG rental income currently, so again, because they share space with what was the Graduate Student Sustainability Resource Center, that rental income was collected to be a budget for that office, which there was a director of the GSRC and whatnot, which I'm not sure if that's still a position you all continue to appoint, but yeah, essentially it would go to that budget to put on programs through that resource center. But since it's not operational, it's not currently used. So, to say like what percentage of your overall budget, I'm not really sure, but you would have the ability to redirect those funds because it's essentially other income. So you can use it, to further support the student interest boards or other initiatives of GSA. It's flexible money because it's not student fees. So you can do a lot more with it because it's not tied to any referendum language.
Okay, sounds good. And then I just had like one comment. So, like, I'm part of the first gen grad student council, and then we didn't know that we could use that space. So we just like have never used that space before, like the 138 room. And then I guess just like when Matthew said about the 138A being used as storage for LGSA, I know for FGGSC we have been using the cage in the student like activity center and then also the GSRC as kind of a storage space for our materials. Not that we have a lot of stuff, but I think that could also be kind of like a remedy in the other situation if people do end up voting to just move CalPERC into 138A, that could be like an option as having like a storage if there isn't enough storage.
That really quick on that note, we also in the last meeting talked about building storage in the main room of Kirkhoff Hall 138. So just putting that on the floor.
Do we have other questions, comments? Is there something in the chat? We have a question for Mati from, I'm sorry, I just see the letter G. I apologize. Gabby.
Oh, yeah. Question for Mati. Since you and LGSA use the space more than I do, what would be the ideal situation for LGSA? Because I know y'all are very active and y'all do a lot of stuff on campus. And I just want to make sure that like, and especially since you mentioned that you've been pouring in like your own money and your own funds, like what would be the ideal situation?
I mean, honestly, the ideal situation is that if CalPERG does get moved to a new place, it wouldn't be 138A. Again, our big concern is if you need, like, to get to 138A, you have to go through 138, which means now this access that is only for the board members who are of LGSA, of BGSA, who've been utilizing that space. Now that gets opened up to what, five, six other people that we don't know, we don't have a relationship with. So ideally, we get to keep the space for ourselves. That's the main thing for us.
Okay, thank you. So Briogene has raised her hand. The chair recognizes you and you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Briogene Moore. I am also external VP of BGSA, and I would like to go ahead and back up Monty from LGSA. It's a shared space for both of our organizations, and I know BGSA has definitely shared the same sentiments of really wanting that space for us to be kept by us. And if there is, a possibility that, this passes and this is something that, everyone is passionate about, that it is not accessible or, interferes with our space, something that, should be held private for LGSA and BGSA, being that we already have limited space for our affinity groups. So just, wanting to mention that BGSA had voted and we, as, us together and already feel the same way as LGSA as far as wanting to keep the space, just, for us by us.
Yes, you have the floor. May you say your name and the council you represent?
Yes, this is Kelly with the full-time MBA program at Anderson. Is there two questions? One, is there a reason to believe that you wouldn't have a good relationship with the five people that are coming into the space? And would the five people be there all the time? And then two, how long has GSA been getting this $6,000? And is it absolutely essential to have that as extra income for all graduate programs? Thank you.
As for CalPERG moving, if they were to move into the space, it would most likely just be their board members, if that. And right now, what they're using the sustainability like office space for is mainly for storage. Honestly, they do a lot of sustainability work on campus. Have you ever seen them? They have like this recyclable bear of Amazon like packages that they made on like Burn Walk. And so they usually use just the office for storage or to do work. So it's not like they don't use it as like a lounge. And so that would be the main thing there. It'd just be mainly their CalPERG leadership. They wouldn't host meetings in there because their organization is frankly too large to host meetings in that space. Um, and so there would be that point. As for how long we've been collecting this rent, Jessica?
I would say decades. I don't really know the exact time frame, but the relationship with CalPERG goes back pretty far. Initially, they were both an undergrad and grad serving group, and we actually had contracts via USA and GSA for them to be able to collect pledges from students. But some years ago, I don't know the exact number, they discontinued their contract with GSA just because they were having a hard time meeting that percentage threshold of pledges. But that said, they do still get pledges from grad students, which essentially is like an elective fee that students pay to CalPERG to further their operations. They're basically part of a larger statewide organization that lobbies for special interests. So they do still collect fees from grad students, but primarily their operations in the space is to be able to go out and like collect pledges whenever they do their pledge drives quarterly. So yeah, it's mainly operational, maybe a little bit of storage. And yeah, I'll also say just because of the historical nature of CalPERG existing for so long and being in the space for so long, it's actually pretty unusual that a group like that would pay rent that would go to one of the entities as income. So that's also pretty rare and definitely was like a relationship that was grandfathered in. So it was never changed by ASUCLA's board of directors, but generally, any space within Ackerman and Kirkhoff that are essentially leased, all of that income goes to the board of directors to utilize and to direct however they deem appropriate. So, well, yes, 6,000 might not sound like a lot. It is pretty rare, and there's no other. I don't see any scenario in the future where GSA would be able to have any kind of income similarly, where you have a lot of flexibility with where you can direct that budget source to.
Okay. Oh, sorry. As for your first question regarding the relationship with CalPER, I believe that's a question that would be best answered by Briogene and Mati. I'll give them time to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we could probably very much get along, but the thing is, my concern is if we're discussing the space, why have they not contacted us as, the boards of LGSA and BGSA who are using that space frequently? If this is a conversation about, sharing space, being in each other's, company and having a working relationship, they're not here really to engage in that. We haven't really been approached by them. I don't haven't seen any communication towards our official accounts or with any of our board members. So that makes me hesitant. When we got this space as members of the Student Interest Board, BGSA and LGSA were in conversation with one another immediately. And we have worked to make it a shared space, and we are in there oftentimes together. So this organization hasn't really bothered to interact with us. So that's my concern. It's like if there's radio silence now, what's it going to be like later? And again, maybe they're just going to be using it for storage, but we also use 138A for storage. That's where a lot of our stuff is held, especially over the summer when, a lot of us are going to other parts of the country or other parts of the world because we're grad students. We have research to do. So we're hesitant to be leaving that space to people that we don't know and who haven't really bothered to interact with us on this kind of important matter.
Can everyone hear me?
Oh, before you speak, Briogene has raised her hand. We'll give her time, and the chair recognizes Bri.
Thank you. Briogene with BGSA, external VP again. Just like Monty stated, the simple fact that we have not had any close communication and the fact that this was kind of something that we had to have a meeting with BGSA, when I say that, to understand exactly what was going on, exactly what, this was. And there was no approach from the board members, the 5 board members, is definitely a little shaky and kind of shows, or for us, shows that this may be exactly how the relationship will be. There will be, these ideas, these different wants and no communication with us. And that is something that is just like a big importance. Like if we're utilizing the space, if we're in the space, communication is big. It's a space that we hold as our own and that we're able to be there and, have, if there's no communication, then there's no working relationship. There's none. It's not going to exist. And that's just kind of how that looks for us. So just like Monty said, if we wanted this space to be shared, yeah, I feel like that should have been contacted. There should have been a communication before having this big, this big thing here. So yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Bri. The chair recognizes Pamela Davis.
Pamela Lewis.
Oh, Lewis, I'm so sorry.
You're good. Good evening, everyone. Pamela Lewis, Director of the Student Union. I just want to clarify one important fact based on the last comment with CalPERG. CalPERG is, this thought is just not right now with with GSA form and with student-run enterprises. CalPERG would be a second conversation. So the process is that it needs to come through form first. So we will not entertain occupancy right now regarding this because the process is first through you all. If it's not approved or it's not an option you all want to look at, we will not entertain it. So I just want to say that again. That's why they have not reached out, because it has to go through the process. And the process was first through student-run enterprises with GSA and the form. And they have been a very long occupant in the building. predominantly in that space. I've been here for a while, but they've only one that's been in that office, literally. So I just want to clarify those facts. So we're being focused of what the process is and where we are right now. If the forum was to agree, then those conversations will continue, and then we will go with the options based on that. So it's just where's forum, what are we approving, or what would you all approve, and we come back to the table where we have to have those conversations. So just want to clear that up.
Thank you, Pamela. Yes, and thank you for the clarification. Do we have other questions, comments? Oh, we have some hands raised. Please state your name and the council you represent.
Hi, I'm Rhea. I'm from the Math and Physical Sciences Council. I was just wondering if there's any consideration for just not going with the remodel, if that's a possibility, since it does seem like a contentious issue and it seems like it's a financial investment, even if it's not our money. So I guess my question is, can I hear some concrete ideas of what would be done with the remodeled space that wouldn't be possible with the current space? Thank you.
Thank you for asking. To address, I think the contention is not remodeling the space in and of itself. I think the contention is having a primarily undergraduate organization move into a space within a graduate space. That's the contention there. Can you go back a couple of slides, Jonathan, to back, that one.
This one.
Okay, this one. So all of the furniture and wall coverings would be removed and the paint would be updated and all new furniture would be brought in. So there would be small, and it would not be this color. This is just a rendering, I promise. So we would have things like they may be hard to see, but there's little study nooks for people to go and sit in. There is a couch here for a social aspect, and then behind there's a bar with like bar seating behind where students, so it's basically more space for us to sit and study and commune with one another. The overall goal is to make it more inviting space. I've been here about 5 years now, and I've seen, I want to say, the same 4 students continue to use the space because they know it's there, because it's quiet, but it's not functional. So if your organization wants to say have a program in Kirkhoff, there would be a room specifically for that, because then this room would be built with little seating and storage space for us to keep things like for graduate students when we do grad bar alcohol storage for all of some council belongings, which can be decided upon. So the purpose of it is to make it far more communal. As it stands right now, I think, Jonathan, can you go back to the really, not that one. So this is as it looks right now, with big bulky furniture and a random assortment of furniture. I don't even know how all of this got in here. It seems like it was just donated randomly. I'm like, we need a sofa, and here it is. But all of this would be gone, and it would look like a space built for graduate students, specifically for us. So again, the contention doesn't come from the fact that we want to renovate the lounge. This is something that has been discussed in several forums. But this is one of the first opportunities where the funding would come from another entity. We would not be putting towards GSA funds towards this renovation. I had another point, but I can't remember. Oh, and then the other comment I did want to make is that as far as CalPERG grant, because they're not utilizing because we're not doing the conference room, things like having that extra $6,000 could go to funding the changing of the conference room to another more socially fluid space for graduate students. So if we're thinking about the context of how much is $6,000 really, that could be something used to upgrade another space within the lounge that makes this a dedicated graduate social space. So does that answer your question? Okay, perfect.
Okay. Other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Before I call for a motion, oh yes, do we have a question? Or, oh, yes, Mati, yeah, the chair recognizes you.
Yeah, so just, I mean, I know, so clearly the renovation has been talked about a lot, and there's a concern that it's a space that's not being utilized. But I mean, do we think the renovation is going to make it be more utilized? I'll be honest, I very rarely see grad students in there. Very rarely do I hear them talk about it. I feel like the GSRC really kind of fulfills the niche it seems that like we're trying to make the lounge be. So I don't know, I'm not sure how like if it's worth getting ourselves tangled up in all of this, to be honest.
Thank you. Realistically, students don't come, one, because they don't know, and two, because it's ugly. It's not a space that you would normally hang out in because it's not inviting to students. And I know because I'm often in the space. And I don't really like it in there. But it is a quiet place to study for students who may not have offices, lab spaces, commuter students looking for someplace quiet to be. This is an undergraduate university, and I understand that, but it would be nice to have a social space that's not a department, right? But a social communal space on campus for all graduate students. Again, the contention is not renovating the lounge, which is a need because there is, from serving on the board, there is a call for graduate students to have a dedicated space. I've heard this for many years for students to have a space on campus that is not within another undergraduate space. It happened when the BBRC was built, where graduate students said, I'd love to go in there, but it's primarily undergrads. So the need to have a dedicated space is here, it is relevant, and this is an option for us. Again, the contention lies in whether or not we want to move CalPERG into the office, or if we just want to relinquish 160 completely and not give CalPERG a new space. That is the true question of it, because I think we have a really great opportunity to create a space, right, for ourselves that we can program out of that's not the graduate student resource center.
Okay, thank you both. Yeah. Naomi, the floor is yours.
Would it be helpful if I put the two various motions in the chat? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, one final question on my side is, I think my only concern would be if this relocation would result in some sort of lack of representation for those groups. Like, how affected would they be in comparison to other similar groups in terms of like space availability? Would they be actually compromised or anything like that? Or is it something that there are other groups there are also in a similar position that they need to share space or whatsoever?
I think I can address that question, but may I ask you to reiterate that one more time? I just want to make sure I clearly understand what you're asking.
Yeah, my question is whether this relocation would make these two groups especially in a worse position than other groups. Yeah. Or is it something, or is there other groups that are in a similar position? For example, sharing spaces.
So I would be able to speak to that last part. I'm not familiar with what other groups might be in a difficult position like that. I can say that as VP of Internal Affairs, the Student Interest Board falls under directly my responsibility in ensuring that they have a voice within GSA and have participation and representation. This does include not only the newly inducted ADCC, the Advanced Degree Consulting Club. This also does include the longtime standing first generation graduate student council that has not necessarily been as active within GSA Forum, but it is a goal of mine to get them to participate more. This does mean that with the increase in the number of student interest board groups, that the need for spaces like Kirkhoff 138, and then the storage and also use as a private office for meetings and things like that, 138A, would need to be utilized more. And so putting a completely separate group in there at the expense of the space that's already being used by, 2 or 3 groups and potentially more at some point, as time goes on, that could be very compromising to the well-being of those student interest groups. So that's my answer, and I hope that clarifies things for you.
Yes, it answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I noticed some things in the chat. Okay. All right, so we have these 2 motions. So we have these 2 motions. Before we have the motions made, I would like to offer some final words if there are no objections. Okay. So as I mentioned, the student interest group falls under my responsibility as Vice President of Internal Affairs. I should mention that my predecessor, Elisa, who was in this role, really made it her goal to get the Student Interest Board as an active entity within GSA because it hadn't been for a really long time, and or at least not in the capacity that it is now. And through her efforts, she gave the time and place for the Student Interest Board to have a voice, and today you are hearing that voice as one of your fellow councils within the GSA Forum. And so throughout this discussion in the past few weeks regarding this motion and the space reallocation, I've had the opportunity to meet with the boards of each of these student interest groups, and they have all expressed very similar sentiment, especially regarding sort of the lack of conversation, especially with the Student Interest Board as an entity regarding the space that they are currently using. And because of this, and then because they fall under my responsibility, I also would urge that we find a solution that does not compromise the integrity and the well-being of these already underrepresented student interest minority affinity spaces. And I'm certain that we can find something that will work out in the long term for the best of all of us, graduate students across all councils, including the Student Interest Board. Sure.
Okay, I'm back. Hi. So, I wear a dual hat. I'm president of the Graduate Student Association, and I'm also the president of the Black Graduate Student Association this year, one of the Student Interest Board groups. This is a topic that I originally had brought with the first route of being, okay, moving CalPERC into the back of the Student Interest Board lounge, right? That was what my predecessor, Noor, had talked about with ASUCLA. After reading the statement, after hearing from these groups and what they want, asking ASUCLA to come up with some alternatives, basically we have the alternative on the table. I say we go with the alternative on the table to make everybody happy. Okay? I just can't motion that because I'm a non-voting member. So I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my God, we've had to do this. Like, let's just make a decision, right? I say we can make everybody happy. We have a motion that makes most people happy. Let's go for it.
So to clarify in the chat, the first motion is to relocate CalPERC to 138A. The second option, which is what the other motion is, these are 2 options, not 2 motions we're doing. There are 2 options for a motion. So the first one is to relocate into the Student Interest Board space. The second option is to relinquish 160 back to ACCLA, where CalPERC would relocate to a different space and their rent would no longer come into the GSA budget. And that is the option I believe Naomi was just saying is the alternative that seems to work best for the student interest groups. But ultimately, it's a forum decision. So if you are interested in proposing one of 2 motions, please feel free to make the motions located in one of the motions located in the chat.
And we'll need it to be spoken, actually.
but that's for their reading.
Are we able to, am I able to speak to make the motion?
Yes, you as a voting
Okay.
member have that
I
opportunity.
move to approve that the GSA forum relinquish 160 back to AS UCLA, contingent upon, I guess, hold on, I'm trying to read what she wrote. Contingent upon AS UCLA student-run enterprises agreeing to moderately enhance the space by providing a new lounge furniture, repainting the area, and moving the existing wall frames and furniture. CalPrig occupancy would relocate to a different space, and their rent would no longer go into the GSA budget. And from my understanding, this would allow B GSA and L GSA to maintain their use in communal space.
Thank you. The motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor of passing this motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, great. Thank you. Please lower your hands. All right, all those against, please raise your hand. Okay, those that wish to abstain, please indicate. Okay, I believe the vote passes. I'd have to check the count again. We have 4 here, and then we had, my apologies, I need to, those that were in favor, please raise your hand on Zoom. 6, okay. 6, and then we had 4 here, so 10 votes for in favor. Oh, 7. Oh, sorry. So 7 plus 4, 11 votes. Okay. All right, we have 7 votes in favor, and then we had none against, and the rest abstained. No, so 11 plus the 4. No, 11. Okay, 11 in favor, none against, and then 4 that abstained, or I believe the rest abstained. So, out of the votes cast, that means the motion passes. All right. Okay. We will go ahead and continue to new business. That being said, we have already reached our 2-hour limit, and by I think the codes or Robert's Rules of Order, we would need a 2/3 vote on extending the time, or we can move to, I believe, table. I would need Jonathan's input, but he's not here available. Okay.
Can I say something on that really quick? Okay. I know it's been a long meeting. I do really need us to have a discussion that's going to be on our agenda. It's the literal second point, the executive session, because I do have guests coming in to this meeting. And we really need to have this discussion because it concerns all of graduate students before we go off for this quarter. So I would say if somebody can make a motion. I hope we can go through the bylaws really quick for that and then just get started with the executive session. So honestly, I just need like 30 more minutes.
Okay, so we will need a motion to extend the meeting by 30 minutes.
I motion to extend the meeting by 30 minutes.
Okay, motioned, and then do we have a second? Okay, seconded. All right, we will need a 2/3 vote of votes cast, so I will need to take a very clear count. All those in favor of extending the meeting, please indicate by raising your hand. Eight. Okay, so we have 9, and then we have Kelly, did you raise your hand for that? Okay, great. So that's 13. Sorry, just doing a quick calculation. Please bear with me. Okay. All right. Those that are against, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, so we have 2 votes against. Oh, sorry. All right. Will everyone please lower your hands? We'll just clear the slate again. Okay, and then those against, please again indicate by raising your hand. Okay, those that wish to abstain. Okay, with that, in terms of the votes cast, that we have a supermajority, I believe, so the motion passes. All right, so now what's going to happen is we can move to have someone move, sorry, my apologies. We can have someone vote or move to vote and into entering an executive session. With an executive session, the live would be stopped. There's no live, but the recording would stop. This would be a closed meeting to the public, and then we would have our discussion, and then we'd have to vote to move out of executive session and then move forward. So do we have a motion to enter executive session? All right, motion made. Do we have a second? Seconded. Motion and seconded. Those in favor, please indicate. A second. Oh, yeah, we're voting. We're voting on the motion to enter the session. All right, those against. Oh, sorry, please lower your hands. Okay, those against, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, then those that wish to abstain, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, with that, the motion passes. We enter executive session. I will pause the recording.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
And thank you.
Jay, can you pause the recording really quick?
Pause it? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, executive session is ended. I would like someone to motion to table everything else. It's been a long meeting, so please make the motion.
I motion we table everything else.
All right, motion has been made. Motion has been seconded. All those in favor of tabling everything else? We love unanimity. All right. All right, please lower your hands. Those against? Okay. Those that abstain? Thank you. All right, now we need, we move on. We've concluded the agenda. We need a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion to adjourn. Motion has been seconded. All those in favor of adjourning? All right, thank you. Those against? Those that abstain? The motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all next quarter.
Thank you all.